Good evening and welcome to the 5th round of our Procar Series 1980 edition, coming to you tonight from the Hockenheimring in Germany. And what is promising to be, based on the qualifying times at least, an extremely close and interesting race. With me in the booth I have Tim Hille. Good evening, Tim. How are you looking at the action so far? Do you reckon it'll be as close as I imagine, or are you a bit more hesitant? It's definitely something to hope for, to say the least. Let's see, my broadcasting assistant Lucy is on some of the buttons. Let's see, there we are. So the track itself, as we mentioned, is the Hockenheimring. It's a 6.797 kilometer road circuit, so almost exactly 6.8 Ks. The drivers will be going for 20 laps, which will equal just under 136 kilometers. And based on the lap times I'm seeing, it's probably going to take roughly 45 to 50 minutes for them to complete the 20 lap distance. Okay, so why is that? Let's see. No, that's not it. Maybe that's why. Let's see. Let's see which one would work for that. Just whatever default, maybe. Let's try again now. That does not register. Okay. It has worked before. Let's try this then. Let's try again.
Good evening, hello?
Well, that definitely registered. Question is, will it also register the cars out on track? Let's see. No one is out on track at the moment, so... Well, they are. Let's have a quick little test. Nope, now it doesn't pick up that. Let's see then. Could I ask you to speak again, please, Tim? No. Then why isn't it wanting to work? What am I doing wrong? Alright. Let's try like this then. Where do I have? There it is. Let's see, where is it? There it is. Could I ask you to try again?
Test, test.
No, that picked up. Good. It was a faulty setting in the audio software. There we are. How disappointing. Well, good evening, Tim, and sorry for the issues.
Well, everybody has technical gremlins sometimes. It's just a matter of how big they are.
Indeed, indeed. Notice that it went a little bit high, so let's just slightly drop the volume. There we are. It'll probably be a little bit of trial and error, folks. Like you probably remember, I changed computers, upgraded my system a while ago, and still some niggly bits to sort out. Thank you for letting us know, and I hope it's working better now. Right, so now all the cars coming out on track, so that seemed to be audible as well. Right, quick check up of the points before we go to the warm-up session and check on some of the riders and drivers tonight. The point scheme works as such that the winner scores 20 points, 15 to second, 12 for third, 10 for fourth, 8 for fifth, 6 for sixth, and 4 for seventh, and then it drops by 1 point down to 10th for each position, so 10th scoring 1 point. 90% of the race's distance need to be completed to be classified and score points, and all the results will count at the end of the season. In terms of the championship itself, we can see that Cesare Schlapinski is enjoying a 10-point gap to Grant Riddall in second, who has scored 65 points. Unfortunately, won't score any points tonight, absent due to more important matters than simulator racing. Anders Nilsson is third in the championship standings on 38 points. Richard Wilkes is fourth on 34. And then Tim Hille, Juha Boos and John Tim are all equal fifth on 18 points. And I think, just for the hell of it, well, that's a bad expression, but to bring it up, because I reckon the race will be hectic, the trivia question for you all to ponder while the race is going on, in case we have a moment of not much happening out on track. The final assembly of the BMW M1 took place at which of the following firms? Was it A. Carrosserie Bauer, B. Italiana Resina, or C. Ital Design? And I will say I got that wrong. Tim, any immediate thoughts on that, which you may or may not want to share?
Well, I think A is a trap, because given that, BMW is a German company, you would think that they have done it somewhere in Germany. But I'm not falling for the trap, so I'm undecided between B or C. I will decide on which name I like the most after the race.
That sounds like a good idea. There we go, just some more slight tweaking. Right, so out on track we have quite a few cars now. We have Simon Wattmann in the Marco Rennsport car once again. Raoul Jereb as well in the Arcus Air sponsored number 66 that is, I think. Yep. We have Mark Wittmann in the Autosonic entry and sponsored car number 63. We have Jill Tau in the Grundisch Total car. We have Santino Pochetta driving the Reutemann number 28 for this round. We also have Angel May in the other of the Grundisch and Franchi sponsored cars, number 62. We have Dario Up in the number 99 Jan Lanners car for BMW Netherlands. Let's see if we have any other one-off drivers. I know we had one other, but let's see if we can find... There we have him! David Wattman in the number 45 Memphis International car. Brother of Simon Wattman, who is right behind him on track there actually.
After the team brothers, the next set of brothers racing here. More and more families are joining us.
Indeed. And actually in terms of the timeline, I'd say the Wattman brothers are actually earlier, if one goes far enough back in time. But it is, I think, the first time they are driving in the same race here at ISO specifically. Though, as we can see, someone with a big loose into the chicane there. Didn't quite pick up on who that was. That was not Mike Wittmann, it was someone else.
I think it actually was Mark Wittmann.
No, it was a more wide car than that, so possibly Yilto had a bit of a moment. No, it wasn't. Huh. Was it? Did I really misidentify the car to that extent? No, there was a second car that had a moment. Oh well.
A lot of going on, even in the warm-up. Drivers should be ready for the race.
Indeed. Which is maybe why they are having a couple of niggly issues. Many of them having driven the cars on no fuel at all in the car, pretty much, and now they are having to try and deal with it when it's rather heavy, with quite a bit of fuel in it.
Also, they're on the used qualifying set right now. You got in the Procar weekends or qualifying, warm-up and race just 2 sets of tires, and you usually use one set for quali, the same set for warm-up, and then the fresh set for the race, which means they're now out. And as you said, more fuel and a tire which has more degradation on it than they are used to.
Indeed. Didn't think about that. By the way, any immediate thoughts on who will have a good race or be a clear favorite or anything like that?
Well, the clear favorite is obvious. Looking at the time of the qualifying, it's Cesarios. But I think Giovanni Santorame could be up again there. He was quite good in Donington, but then he had a patch of some rough races. Even though he scored points, he wasn't at the high he had at Donington. And he qualified quite good. I think he actually was second, beat Juha for the front row. So, you know, maybe he can do something and land himself a spot on the podium today.
That's definitely possible. It's no mean feat to qualify on the front row.
It's certainly a pushes you a little bit more if you know that you can actually achieve something here today.
Indeed.
Also, the championship is quite close. I mean, if you have seen it in the standings that there are 3 people tied for 5th place, and then 1 place behind it you got Santarama, just 1 point behind them. And then you got Gabriel Ster, just 6 points between the people who are tied for P5. And even if you look further into the standings, you can see that Wilkes and Nielsen are just split by 4 points. A lot of opportunity to swap places after this race in the championship.
Very much so. A lot of positions to keep track of tonight. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oof. Mark Wittmann with a big loose on the brakes and into the stadium section. Almost akin to what happened to Mika Häkkinen in would have been 1999, I think, when he had what I think was a puncture going into the stadium section and had an almighty off. Thankfully by then they had put in gravel traps to try and slow the cars down as they went off, where you can see the grass on this picture.
A lot of drivers still seem to struggle with the brakes. Well, I mean, it's quite difficult to actually set the brakes up for this car. But also, as you can see by Richard Wilkes, the car can be quite loose in the entry. So it's also going to be quite fun to see in the race who actually got his brakes set up perfectly and is able to, brake these 5-10 meters later, and might actually get the position into the braking zone, into the corner entry.
Indeed. It's interesting to see that this, apart from Cesarius, it's indeed very close, and Gabriel Sturr is currently third on this warm-up session. I think he didn't qualify that well, did he? Don't think.
I think he is like 8 or 9.
Ah, then better than I thought he had. My apologies, Gabriel.
Well, it's his home race, so he has a lot of motivation, probably.
As may be, but if there was a home race at Anderstorp, I still wouldn't have enough motivation to do enough laps to be able to go quick. I don't like that track.
Well, it's Anderstorp, that's understandable.
I'd rather see a race if there were another Swedish championship, like Swedish Grand Prix or similar. I'd much prefer, I know it's unlikely, but Falkenberg, which is very nice flowing, undulating track. But even more so, I suppose. What is that one called? Or even Gelleråsen, which is also a very nice little venue. Anyway, back to the action on track. We'll have one formation lap. And yet again, unfortunately, our position is a bit off to be able to see the lights, so... Ah, this camera we can use later on. Good to see. So we can see the cars going off onto that formation lap here. Looks like all of them will get going indeed. So on pole position we have Cezary Szlapinski in the BNS Fabrications number 5. On second we have Giovanni Centorame for Solo Auto BMW, number 58. Juha Boos lines up third for Sauber Racing Switzerland, number 90. Anders Nilsson fourth for BMW Austria in number 77. Alberto Quino fifth on the grid in the second of the BNS Fabrications cars, number 27. Jon Tim lines up sixth for Manfred Casani Racing, number 55. Gabriel Sturr lines up seventh for Kanacher GT in the number 75. Richard Wilkes, by his qualifying standards, a lowly 8th for Schutz Racing, number 41. Dave Miller in the second of the Sauber Racing Switzerland cars, number 91 in 9th, and rounding out the top 10 in qualifying is Ray Riddall in the GNS tuning, number 81. David Wattmann in his first BMW M1 race here at ISO lines up 11th for Team Schnitzer, number 45. Luciano Rocha will line up 12th for Scuderia Basilea, number 60. Number 70 in the hands of Jason White and the Mazzario team lines up 13th, with Keo McKeels in the second of the GS tuning cars, the number 80 machine, in 14th. Simon Wattmann lines up 15th for Marco Rennsport, number 88, and Raoul Jareb 16th for Eggenberger Motorsports. Francisco Amaral 17th in the second, maybe even third GS tuning car. Mark Wittmann 18th in the second of the Team Schnitzer cars. Jill Toe in the second of the Mazzario team entries in 19th, and rounding out the top 20 in qualifying is Santino Pochetta in the BNS Fabrications, number 28. Daniel May lines up 21st for Team Schnitzer, and rounding out the grid is Dario Apa in the Alimpo Motorsports, number 99. And I reckon this is probably going to be the longest formation lap for our drivers this season, which means the nerves will probably be outside their skins by the time they get to the start-finish line again.
Yeah, this formation lap is really rather slow. The pace by Cezary is at the front. Maybe he's saving tires or saving some fuel, even in the formation lap. There must be a bigger plan behind it. It's Cezary, you know, he always got some strategies going on.
Quite so.
Or it might be the case that the formation lap speed limit is set at 80 kilometers, because that's exactly what Cesario's is driving. But it is relatively low compared to the other tracks we have raced this year so far.
Indeed. This is quite a big field of cars. So Stapinski now entering or exiting the last turn, I reckon, and Dariappa barely through the chicane in the stadium section yet. So maybe that's a thing as well, just trying to keep the field close so that the brakes doesn't get cold too quickly. Well, let's see. Everyone is stationary now. We're just waiting for the starters' orders. Here we are, I think. Red lights are on. And the green light is on, and we are racing. Some very good starts and some lesser good starts. Looks like that could be Simon Wattmann maybe, barely getting going in his Marco Rennsport entry. But through turn 1, everyone goes. And looks like everyone is alright. Maybe Jason White actually it was that had a rather slow start. Now through Bremskurve 1. Ooh, and Amaral all crossed up. Did he even survive? I think he did. Looks like he did. No wreckage on the side of the track. And now through Ostkurve, which we'll see quite a bit of four-wheel drifting during this night's race. And we've seen a little bit of it already in the qualifying and warm-up session. Now for Bremskurve 2. Oh, and Santarame all crossed up and wide. I think Anders might get him down towards the stadium section. Another couple of cars wide. Amaral another one. We'll see Anders did indeed get Santarame, so Anders up to 3rd, Santarame down to 4th. And Jon Timmers had a very slow start as well compared to where he qualified, down to 10th from 3rd on the grid.
Jonatan was actually 6th on the grid.
Oh right, he was 2nd in the warm-up session, my apologies.
Yeah, the start looked quite clean. No proper wreckages, just some little offs, which is understandable given that the tires and brakes will be cold.
Indeed. Dario Upper with a beautiful move up the inside of Simon Wattmann. Got a better run out to the last corner, got an overlap, and then just neatly slid up the inside into turn 1 at the Nordkurve. Very nice move.
Jason White probably going for the undertake against Puchetta right now.
Oh, and Puchetta on the grass. Oh, dearie me. And Jason understandably giving a bit of extra room to all of that as well. Oh, and another. Oh, Dariappa spun. Not too bad for him. He was having a very good race up until that point. Let's see if we can see what happened here. Oh, just entering a bit too quickly, snagged the rear brake maybe, and then just a bit of overcorrection. But a very nice quick recovery from that spin, and back going he gets. He's on white again, actually now past Santino Pochetta. Both of them slightly locked up, but looks like, yep, they'll both survive that chicane. When Pochetta with a good run, but onto the grass he went. Maybe a slightly striking the wall, but looks okay. Let's look a little bit further up the field. We have Mark Wittmann in 12th and David Wattmann in 13th. So David getting his teeth into this whole debacle of passing, being overtaken, being sandwiched yet again.
Yeah, and at the front we got Cesario, so already build up a 3.5 second gap to Juha. So, yeah. if you hope for a win today and you're not Cesarios, your chances are very low looking at the gap after 2 laps. But after Nilsson overtook Centorame, he got the place back and is now actually chasing Juha. 1 second the gap between them, and I expect Giovanni to close it within the next 2 laps to have a nice fight for the second place today.
Definitely looks so. Maybe Centorame needed a few laps just to get the tires up to temperature and be confident in the car.
Yeah, just building up the confidence into the race.
That definitely looked like confidence. Just barely keeping it on the grey stuff. Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, sometimes you just need a few laps, a handful of laps to get into the rhythm after this rather slow formation lap. And the little bit gap between after the warm-up and start of the race. So you know, it's like a little bit rust. You have to shrug off until you get properly going again.
You see Ray was under attack from Jonatan, but they remain status quo. I also noticed David Wattmann under attack from Keo Michiels and Francisco Amaral. So this is a nice little scrap to follow in the meantime.
Gabriel Ster is also sniffing at the back of Richard Wicks right now, just 3 times behind him. With the help of Slipstream, he might be able to put on a move on him after the exit of turn 1.
We have 2 passes possibly coming up. Centorame looking for a move, as is Stir on Wilkes. Oh, look at that move from Centorame! What a move! And he keeps it on the track! Holy moly, going around outside in that braking zone is mightily brave.
Yeah, we talked about confidence. There's a guy who has it right now.
Wow.
But Centorame has to be careful to not get carried away by this little win he has achieved now. The race is still long, 15 laps to go. It's easy to use too much of your tire, overheat it, and just lose it in the second half of the race. If he's getting carried away by the momentum he right now has.
Oh, indeed. Oh, Anders Nilsson with a loose. And he's half spinning. Ooh. Nicely held. He kept it off the wall, I think, and kept it relatively together. drops down to 8th, which will most likely become 9th, because here comes Jonatan as well. So down to 9th, Anders Nilsson goes. That's an unfortunate little lose for him, but at least no major damage taken on.
Amara just attempted to pass Whitman in the entry of the Motodrome, but both are now on the grass. Both have run wide.
Oh, and Francisco Amaral in a spin. Very wide indeed he went. That's part of the nature of this track, I'd say. You need to be so close to the limit, but if you go off the limit... Oh, talking about the limit! Wilks and Stur, both off the track. Going towards Bremskurve 1. Oh, so Stur had an overlap going down into the braking zone, and oh, they just slightly... Oof. They just interlocked wheels, and Wilks heavily into the wall, Stur relatively hard into the wall. Stur looks to be able to keep going with a bit of damage to his left front fender. Wilks probably has even more damage to his car. Both of them survived to fight on for another day. When Joha ain't giving Centorame a moment to breathe here.
Neither of these guys had a podium before in the Procar, so you know the first one was always a special one.
Indeed.
And Wilks seems to have got some damage because in the entry of the Motodrome he just got passed by Little L. And he's off his usual pace, driving a little bit slower.
Oh wow, 2:10.5 on race fuel. That is blasting the pace. And that's unfortunate for Wilks. Looks like he'll try to keep going though, without pitting for repairs.
Repairs will probably take too long, given that you only got 15 laps left, so if he's able to somehow nurse it at a relatively good pace till the end, it's his best chance to get something worthy out of the race today.
Indeed. Jonatan has been able to pass Dave Miller when we were checking out the front of the field, and now Anders Nilsson, another Swede, will be looking to get past the Englishman. Oh, and Dave Miller wide at the Ostkurve. Luckily not striking the barriers, but that's a position lost to Anders Nilsson. And that's the thing, you really need to use all the track there to be quick, but as soon as you put just half a tire off the track, it's going to suck you off into the undergrowth and barriers and everything.
It's just the end.
Indeed.
Cesarius has an off right now, a massive off, lost some seconds, but I don't know if he has any damage or touched the wall.
Wow. Oh, let's have a quick look. What happened here? Oh, that's a That's running wide. Didn't hit a wall. Just ran. Got a bit. The car got a little bit loose coming through into the second to last turn, and he just slightly skidded off. Somewhat akin to. I think it was in 2019 when the F1 race at this track was very wet, where I think was it both Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton having very similar offs, like the ones Cesarius just had.
Yeah. And I think Lewis did it after Leclerc, but still he nearly hit him. So, you know, there were some marshals at Leclerc's car at the moment, so it was quite a hairy moment for all parties involved.
Indeed.
Luckily, we had no crash car, where Cesarius just went wide, so we were lucky.
Indeed, indeed. It does look like Gabriel Sturr in the meantime is closing in on Juha Bols. So that could be a battle for third. And Alice Nilsson has gotten past John Tim. And now Ray Riddle is trying to get to grips with Dave Miller in the fight for 9th and 10th. When Dave a little bit deep into the chicane here at Bremskurve 2. And then to the stadium section, looks like Ray ain't close enough. Dave late on the brakes though, a little bit wide, but looks like he'll hold on into the Saxkurve for another lap. Oh, and Keo Michiels has had a spin coming into the stadium section, and David Wattman will take advantage. Up to 12th he goes. Michiels down to 13th. And Simon Wattman in a fight as well with Mark Wittmann. Oh, and Wittmann trying to look up the inside into the aforementioned Saxkurve, as there's a yellow flag somewhere here as well. Must have been ahead somewhere. Or even behind, I'm unsure, but either way. Oh, this is Dario Appa. Similar off to what Slapinski had a moment ago, but he does a full 360 before he catches onto the car again. But able to continue he is.
That is 10 out of 10 for style.
Indeed. Unfortunately, I notice now Santino Pucetta has been forced to retire the car. It looks like it happened some seconds ago, so we're not going to be able to catch it.
I think he drove into the pits and then probably the damage was too much, so he decided to park it.
Ah, fair enough. Oh, that was someone off. That's Aniel May off. Stopped on the side of the track to make sure the faster cars are able to continue through. Nicely done. Based on the tire tracks, maybe also a stalled motor there, but still nicely off the track, and everyone is able to continue past. Well, Keo Michiels looking very aggressive here, trying to find a way past David Wattman.
While we speak, Sturr is catching Juha corner by corner, lap by lap. The gap is now 3/10 for last place on the podium for today. And it looks like Sturr is the faster driver right now.
Let's jump on board with Juha Bols' Sauberreisen Switzerland car and look back towards Gabriel Sturr. And Gabriel has a great run coming out of turn 1. Going up alongside on the inside line. I think he'll pull past before they start braking. Looks like it indeed. What an exit for Sturr there. Up to 30 goes. Will he be able to get the car stopped and turned through the Bremskurve 1 section though? Looks like he will. Position taken and secured. And not too far behind Centorama either. And the battle is on here as well, side by side, Michiels and Wattmann. And Wattmann looked like he backed out of it a little bit to make sure he can take Bremskurve 1 the way he wants to do it. And back to 13th he goes. Wattmann still holding on from Wittmann. Oh, that's another tongue twister of a name for us commentators to keep track of. It's like Jason White and Jason Whited has been in the past. And Anders Nilsson has been able to pass Richard Wilkes, I noticed. Looks like Wilkes may have had an off at Ostkurve. Yep, he did indeed. Quite a substantial one. Going into the Ostkurve, car breaks loose and he is already understeering off the racing surface. Side glancing strike on the barriers and out the other side. But Anders Nilsson, with the momentum, is able to pull past down the straight towards Bremskurve 2. And a yellow flag here. I can't quite make out what car that is. That is Aniel May, making sure the faster cars are able to go past by the looks of things. Ooh, Equino with a big lock-up of the right front wheel. That will do his steering no good at all.
And Stur already halved the gap to Santorame, so the gap is now half a second to him. And eyeing up that second place probably in a few laps. Or also already gapped Juha by a solid second by now.
When Wittmann finally was able to get past Simon Wattmann. Let's see how that happened. Down the long curved straight from the Nordkurve to Bremskurve 1. Little bit of a better exit, late braking for Wittmann, and past Wattmann he went. Very nicely done. And now Wilkes with his damaged car, having to try and defend from Jon Tim. For right now it looks to be working. And I'd say Stur up in the battle for second and third is just outside the magical distance between the cars, where he'll start to get some slipstream, and from that point on he will just go up to the rear end of Santorame's car. John got a very good run out of Bremskurve 1, so maybe he will have a chance at Ostkurve. He was definitely looking for it. Both of them late on the brakes. Both of them able to keep the car on the track here by the looks of things. Yep. Oh, and Jonatan understeers off in Bremskurve 2 and loses time to Wilkes, so let's move away from that battle for the time being.
Ray Riddle is eyeing up a move on Dave Miller right now. They have been close for the last few laps, but Ray hasn't been able to put on the move.
No, indeed. Oh, Dave very wide. Oh no, both of them make contact. Dave Miller spins. That looked like a, oh, that's my chance. Went up the inside, but unfortunately Dave wasn't quite as far off the track as it looked like Ray was thinking he would be, and unfortunately contact was made. That's one of those things, but unfortunately for Dave, that means he's now outside the points.
A perfect example of the commentator's curse striking again.
I suppose that could be said, yes. And unfortunately, another close battle being separated.
Looking at it right now, we might have a 4-car battle for P2, which is more than enough payback.
Quite.
Lille has been able to close the gap these last few laps. So it's not just a matter of who is able to get the most out of the rather slow tires in these last few laps, and who is able to, you know, be consistent and don't do any mistakes like braking a few meters too late, running wide, losing time on the exit, therefore.
Indeed. And I also just caught on to the fact that Wattmann has been able to repass Wittmann, and Amaral has caught up to this duo as well, and it's a 3-car battle for, would that be 15th, 16th and 17th position on the track. Actually, Wittmann just lost the position, so it's 14th, 15th, 16th fighting for the positions here. Oh, and Amaral way too far up the inside there. Oh, and Wittmann a little bit loose through Ostkurve as well. I reckon the rear tires are starting to cry a bit of a please let us rest song. Especially the left rear, which you told me and us while the mic wasn't quite working, my settings wasn't quite working the way they should. Which is the tire that, in your experience, takes the most beating around here?
Yeah, especially in the Oscorp and in the Motorhome, because you're just essentially leaning on the rear left tire, putting all the weight of your car through it, and also the power, if you finally get on the power.
Nice couple of opportunistic moves by Amaral, so he is up to 14th. Ahead of Wattmann and Wittmann, who will continue their bout, I'm sure. And the battle for 7th is on once again. Tim has been able to catch Wilkes. Distance is still substantial enough between the 2nd to 5th place cars, so let's have a look on board from Jon Tim's point of view, looking ahead at Richard Wilkes and looking to try and get up one more position here in the field. And it does look like Wilkes is mainly struggling with the longer radius right-hand turns.
If he has some damage on the left side of the car, it would make sense, because that's when all your weight is put from the car on the left car side.
Quite so. Yes, it was interesting to see that in the where it's simply a quick flick and get the car a little bit sideways to try and get a four-wheel drift going, and then through the turn it looked like there were little to no issues, so just an interesting situation as such. And I was going to say Stur really closing in on Centrame, but then Stur made just a tiny mistake into the Saxkurve and locked up and dropped a few tenths again.
Well, if you put the pressure on somebody, you also always have to be careful to not put too much pressure on yourself and overdrive the car by yourself.
Very much so. Oh, and Stur now looks like Centrame had a very bad exit out of the Nordkurve, and Stur is up the inside down the straight. Oh, and I think he has enough of an overlap. He does. Can he get the car stopped and turned? He can. Will he keep it on the track? He does. And Stur up to second. Very nicely done. Let's see if Centrame has anything to answer with, though. He's definitely trying. Maybe, just maybe. Oh, a bit of traffic. Oh, dearie me. Oh. That's highly unfortunate. A little bit of contact there, and unfortunately Centrame loses a bit of pace, and Johan Boos is able to slingshot past. And unfortunately, unsure, I think that may have been...
That was Angel May.
Angel May indeed. Was forced into a spin by the tiny contact that was made. But again, just one of those things. This track is very high speed, and wrong place, wrong time. There's nothing you can do, really.
Wrong place, wrong time, and Johan Boos benefited of it. He's now in third place and sniffing with the Procar at second place on Gabriel Stair.
I suppose in one way of the expression, Johan could be on the other end of the spectrum with a right place, right time. There's Jonatan again, right up behind Richard Wilkes coming out to the stadium section. I think generally Jonatan needs to get a good run through turn 1. But Wilkes has that turn fairly well sorted. But maybe this time Tim will have the slipstream enough to be able to pull up alongside the Portuguese driver. He definitely has the slingshot speed, but oh no! Tim is on the grass. Oh dearie me! Oh, hold on to it, son. Ride them cowboys, and both of them survive. Holy moly! Wow. Oof. That was a bit of a handful. Let's watch on board here and see the work Jon had to put in. Wow.
He needs a new set of underwear.
For sure. That looked very scary indeed. Wow.
Wilkes had probably both eyes glued to the mirror to see what's actually happening behind him.
Quite. It's one of those moments, sort of, when you're looking in the mirror, finally get through the turn and you see, holy, he held on to it. You let go of the wheel for a moment to go clapping because it was such an epic save, and then realize, oh, I'm still driving. Hands back on the wheel.
My first thought would be, alright, he's going to take me out in a few moments.
That has occasionally crossed one's mind as well, indeed. Fortunately, not more than once, maybe twice, while racing at ISO, so it's happened far more often in real life. Both on the normal highway and a little bit of other racing one I have done. It looks like David Wattman has gotten past Dave Miller, so Miller struggling with the car in this late stage of the race, maybe using a bit too much tires. And Simon Wattman and Jason White quite close together, so that might be a battle to come the end of the race between the Swede and the American.
Santorama actually closed up the gap to Juha, but then he did a little mistake in the entry of the second chicane, so now the gap is up to 1 second. But it looks like, it feels like that Santorama is the faster driver, but he's running out of laps at this point. He only got 4 laps left to actually put on the move and get past Juha for the last place on the rostrum.
And speaking of last, oh no! Just as I say that, Equino, in a battle with Anders Nilsson, just slightly gets over the top face of the curbing, spins, and loses the position to Nilsson. Nilsson up to 5th. Just a little bit too wide there, and the left rear got on the curbing, and that was that.
Well, there was a right-hand corner, so the rear left tire probably striking again.
Well, here we are indeed. And I found with the limited racing I've done at Hockenheim in this particular layout with the Ostkurve as a proper turn, it's often the case that you hold on a moment. Good run coming through out of the Ostkurve. Santorama looking up the inside of Joa Bos, not able to make the move stick. Both of them keep on the grey stuff, and the battle goes on. I sort of feel that it's very difficult to get a turn in right. You usually end up just a little bit later than the car in front, and if there's like 4 or 5 cars in a row, It's like one is a little bit late, a little bit late, a little bit late, and the last car turns in so late that you just slightly go on the dirt and marbles and just glide off. Which makes it quite difficult in these races. Notice there that Raoul Reb was just lapped by these guys, so lapping and racing all in an evening's work for these drivers. Oh, and I think Johan might have been just a little bit too sideways there. But Centorama ran a little bit too wide on the exit. Let's see if he has some chance anyway. Looks like he has the slipstream. Looks like they are side by side going towards the braking zone. Oh, Centorama around outside again! He does it again! And he holds on to it! What a move again! Unbelievable.
Juha's probably sick of that move by now.
Definitely. Second time you end up having to relinquish the position in the same manner of way. Wowee. And the battle's still going on between Wilkes and Tim. Tim still haven't been able to find a way past. Now on the inside, going towards the Ostkurve. Oh, maybe now. Oh, a little bit of contact. Both of them survive. Coming through the exit. Wilkes still ahead. And this is the second last lap for these guys. That means in a moment, the last lap will be commenced. And Tim again up the inside, this time at Bremskurve 2. Oh, both of them all crossed up, both of them surviving again. Wilkes still staying in front. So the last lap has been started by Cesariu Ślepinski. Who's in a commanding lead of 12.5 seconds ahead of Stur, who's in front of Centorama. And then Bors in 4th, looks like his challenge has faded. Nilsson 5th, Equino in 6th. And then this battle between Wilkes and Tim as Amaral receives a drive-through, I'd assume because he's shortcutted the chicanes once too many times for the organisers to be happy. Oh, Wilkes wide! Oh, Tim off as well! Hard into the barrier!
They already touched before in the last 2 corners. So there was something brewing between the two of them. Tim maybe getting frustrated.
Very possible. That looked more like just overdriving. So quite the gap there. So let's give Ślepinski, oh, Daryap a drive-through as well, presumably for the same reason as Amaral earlier. And there is Zappa, so yeah, probably shortcut the chicane once too many there for the organisers to be happy. But Ślepinski heading towards the stadium section for the final time, and what I think will be his 3rd win in this series, with another commanding, excellent drive. I think we've only seen one real mistake, which happened here about 8 laps in. But through the last couple of turns, through Sudkurve and out of it, and coming through to take the win, Cesariu Ślepinski once again. 115 miles per hour average speed, that is absolutely mental. Second finish finishing position for Gabriel Stur, a very nice drive from him. And Centorame in third, I think he'll be happy with that. Juha Boos probably a little bit disappointed in fourth. Anders Nilsson looks to be finishing fifth here. Very nice recovery drive from him, and Alberto Quino finishing sixth. Wilkes still with a gap to Tim, so Wilkes holds on with the damaged car in seventh, while Jon Tim will finish eighth. Ray Riddle finishing ninth ahead of Luciano Roja, who will score the final point in this race. Just outside is Keo McKeels in 11th. Coming through the last few corners now. Dave Miller with a very damaged car on the left-hand side, finishing 12th here, with David Wattman finishing 13th in his first drive of the year. Very nicely done. Francisco Amaral, despite the drive-through, finishing 14th here, with Wattman and Wittmann still in a battle. Come the final lap, coming through the Saxkurve. Wittmann up the inside of Wattmann, and Wittmann up to 15th. Oh, bit of understeer here though. Let's see if he'll be able to hold on. Ooh, looks like it indeed. So Mark Wittmann will finish 15th, ahead of Simon Wattmann, who will finish 16th. Then we have Jason White 17th, Raoul Yareb 18th, Dario Yapa 19th, Jill Toe in 20th, Aniel May 21st, and I believe Santino Pochetta was our 22nd and last positioned driver here tonight. And wow, what a race that turned out to be, eh?
Well, that was to be expected, to be honest, given that we have spec cars and a track where we have a lot of strats, just limited amount of corners. We had a very good battle for second, third, and fourth, even though Stur gapped them both at the end. Centorame and Juha was probably, well, I wouldn't say sad, but disappointed that he wasn't able to get the podium here. Although fourth place is still quite good for him, given what he has achieved here in the Procar before.
Indeed, I completely agree. And like you say, like I think you alluded to, it's very nice to see Centorame get a podium. Well deserved, with the pace he had at Donington and bouncing back from a couple of lackluster races last couple of events. And also to see some of the recovery drives that people had, Anders Nilsson and to be fair, Gabriel Stur as well, starting from I think 7th and finishing 2nd. Very well done indeed to all of them, to all our finishers and all our drivers really.
Yeah, also to Wilkes for being able to hold on with what seemed to us like a damaged car.
Mm-hmm.
And also to Russia for his first points in this championship.
Indeed. That is very nice. Well, while we wait to see if any drivers wish to come into the booth here and have a chat with us, we'll have a second look at the trivia question and the answer to it. So the question was for you all tonight. The final assembly of the BMW M1 took place at which of the following firms? Was it A. Carrosserie Bauer, B. Italiana Resina, or C. Ital Design?
As I said earlier, I'm going with one of the two Italian firms, and I'm going with C.
Mm-hmm. And the correct answer is actually A, Karosseriebauer, or Bauer, Bohr. That's a combination of letters I haven't seen in German before. So it was actually the obvious answer for once in these questions.
Well, I thought A was the trap, but Jason got me.
Quite. That was the trivia question is courtesy along with the graphics for the race of Jason White. So thank you, Jason, for always putting on good questions and very good graphics for us. Still no drivers wanting to chat. So coming up here at ISO, what I think is next weekend, the 19th of March, we have the 5th round of our 1986 F1 Championship, the 33rd Grand Prix de Belgique, the Belgian Grand Prix, which compared to the confines of Monaco last time out, will probably in comparison like having 10 acres of area to work with instead of a shoebox.
The difference couldn't be much bigger, swapping from Monaco to Spa. Even worse could only be Monza.
Quite, because the top speeds would be so much the greater. Well, any further final thoughts from you before we cap off the broadcast here?
Well, the race was quite good. We always had action. Well done for two Cesarios for winning again. 4th win in 5 races. Quite the man right now in the Procar. And yeah, well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. Always good fun. And like you said, thank you to and congratulations to all our drivers for putting on a good show. Congratulations to Cesarius, Gabriel and Santorame for their podium finishes. And thank you, complete brain fade on names as usual, Tim, for joining me in the booth. And to all of you viewers, I hope you enjoyed this as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. But until next weekend, when Jason will be back in the booth for the F1 Grand Prix broadcast, take care of yourselves. Remember to be kind to each other, and have a great week. Good night, everyone.